The year was 2037. Deep within NASA's Lunar Research Station, Artemis 9, a strange signal disrupted the usual silence of space. At first, the scientists dismissed it as background noise, but as the data streamed in, patterns emerged, an organized sequence, almost like a code. Dr. Evelyn Carter, the lead communications expert, stared at the screen. "This isn't random," she muttered. With trembling fingers, she activated the decryption program. Lines of alien symbols flashed across the monitor. Then, an image formed. Everyone in the control room fell silent. On the screen was a colossal metallic structure buried beneath the lunar surface, with markings that bore no resemblance to any known language or civilization. Within hours, NASA held an emergency briefing. "Whatever sent this signal," General Marcus Hayes said, his voice firm, "wants us to find it." A classified mission was greenlit. Under the cover of a routine maintenance operation, a team of 5 astronauts and 2 military specialists were sent aboard Odyssey 1 to investigate. Their orders were clear: locate the source, gather intel, and return without exposure. As the spacecraft neared the Shackleton crater, the onboard radar detected movement beneath the lunar surface. "That's impossible," murmured Ethan Cole, the mission commander. "Nothing moves on the moon." Then, the ground below them trembled. From the eternal darkness of the crater, something began to rise. A sleek, angular structure, its surface pulsating with a faint blue glow, emerged from the dust. It was not human-made. Ethan's heart pounded. "We're not alone." A chilling silence filled the cockpit of Odyssey 1 as the crew watched in stunned disbelief. The alien structure, now fully emerged from the Shackleton crater, loomed like a silent sentinel, watching, waiting. "Odyssey, this is Houston," the radio crackled. "Do you copy? We're detecting anomalous energy spikes at your location." Ethan swallowed hard before responding. "Houston, we have visual confirmation of an unidentified structure. It's moving." Dr. Vasquez, the mission's xenobiologist, adjusted her visor and zoomed in on the object. "It's emitting a frequency beyond the electromagnetic spectrum," she whispered. "Something's waking up." Before anyone could react, a red beacon pulsed from the alien structure. A sudden shockwave knocked the Odyssey 1 off balance. Warning alarms blared. The spacecraft trembled violently. "Mayday! Mayday!" shouted Reynolds, the mission's military specialist. "We're losing control." Outside, a massive gateway began to open on the alien structure's surface, revealing a dark abyss. A silhouette moved within, tall, angular, and undeniably alive. Then, without warning, a beam of crimson energy erupted from the structure, striking Vasquez square in the chest. She didn't scream. She didn't even have time to react. Her body disintegrated instantly, vanishing into a cloud of atoms. "Vasquez!" Ethan shouted, horror in his voice. Reynolds grabbed his weapon, but before he could fire, his gun melted in his hands, reduced to liquid metal by an unseen force. From the darkness of the gateway, figures emerged, their armor glistening like liquid silver, their faces unreadable behind pulsating, glyph-covered helmets. And then, in a voice that sent a wave of nausea and fear through the crew, they spoke. "You were not invited." Ethan felt his breath hitch in his throat. The voice wasn't just sound, it was inside his head, vibrating through his skull like a nightmare whispered directly into his brain. Reynolds, despite his weapon being useless, instinctively stepped in front of the team. "Who the hell are you?" he barked, trying to keep his composure. The tall, silver-armored entities stood motionless for a moment. Then, as if responding to an unspoken command, one of them raised a gauntleted hand. The air around them rippled like liquid, and suddenly every system inside Odyssey 1 powered down. Lights dimmed. The hum of life support fell silent. Ethan's stomach clenched. "They just shut us down," he murmured, eyes darting to the oxygen levels. If they didn't regain power soon, they'd suffocate in their own suits. Dr. Patel, the team's engineer, scrambled for her tablet, attempting a manual reboot. "They've overridden our entire system," she gasped. "It's like our tech doesn't even register anymore." Then the tallest of the beings took a single step forward, the lunar dust writhing beneath its feet as if resisting its presence. "You were warned," the voice echoed again, but this time Ethan saw it. The words appeared in midair, glowing in symbols no human had ever seen before, yet somehow he understood. Warned? Ethan forced himself to stand his ground. "We didn't receive any warning. The entity tilted its head, as if considering him. Then a sudden pulse of blue energy erupted from its chest, washing over the crew. Pain, blinding, unbearable pain. Ethan dropped to his knees, his mind flooded with images. Flashes of planets burning, colossal ships drifting through the void, and Earth, its surface scarred by something immense, something ancient. When the vision stopped, Ethan gasped for air, heart hammering. And then the entity spoke again, this time with a finality that sent a chill down his spine. Leave or share their fate. Behind them, Vasquez's ashes still floated in the void. Ethan's mind reeled from the vision. His breaths came in short, ragged gasps as he struggled to process what he had just seen. Planets burned, colossal ships drifted lifelessly, and Earth, his home, scarred as if it had already been marked for destruction. Reynolds clutched his helmet, his voice hoarse. We have to move. Now. But before they could act, the alien figures stepped aside, revealing something behind them, a towering monolith, covered in shifting symbols. It was a warning, a message. Patel, still hunched over her tablet, whispered, "They've left something for us." Her fingers trembled as she activated her suit's scanner. A data stream poured into her visor, alien text rewriting itself into something barely comprehensible. Ethan read the translation aloud. "The first war was not yours. The next one will be." His blood ran cold. Reynolds pulled him up. "We're leaving." But the aliens had one final act to show them. From the monolith, a hologram erupted, filling the black lunar sky with a terrifying sight. A fleet, not just one or two ships. Thousands. Dark, jagged vessels eclipsing entire stars, their outlines stretching into infinity. And at the heart of it, a single Leviathan. A ship so massive that it dwarfed even the largest human space stations. It was already moving, heading for Earth. Ethan's stomach lurched. My God, this isn't a warning. He turned to Reynolds, his voice barely a whisper. "This is an execution order." Behind them, the alien beings vanished into thin air, their task complete. The monolith pulsed once more, then shattered into dust. The message had been delivered. And now, humanity had little time left. The dust from the shattered monolith swirled in the weak lunar gravity, dissipating like a fading nightmare. But the terror it left behind was real. Patel's voice was barely audible. "They've already decided." Her fingers trembled over her console. "This isn't a first contact, it's a death sentence." Ethan forced himself to think. No, not yet. "We need to get back to Odyssey 1, he said, gripping Reynolds' arm. "We have to warn Earth." Reynolds nodded sharply. "Move." The crew sprinted across the lunar surface, every step kicking up clouds of dust that hung eerily in the airless void. Behind them, the alien structure sank back into the crater, its purpose fulfilled. Patel reactivated her comms. "Houston, do you copy?" Static. Reynolds cursed. "They're jamming us." Then a flash, a distant light in the void. At first, Ethan thought it was a star, but then it grew larger. Something was coming. A dark shape, sleek and impossibly fast, broke through the horizon. Not human. Not friendly. "Run," Ethan shouted. They barely reached Odyssey 1's airlock before the first energy blast struck. The ground erupted behind them, sending a shockwave that hurled them forward. "Inside. Seal the hatch. Pressurize." "Systems are still down," Patel shouted, frantic. "They've locked us out." A deep hum reverberated through the ship. Something was boarding. Ethan locked eyes with Reynolds. "We don't get off this rock, Earth is doomed." Reynolds gritted his teeth. "Then we fight." The interior lights of Odyssey 1 flickered as an unnatural energy field pulsed through the ship. The hum grew louder. Something was inside. Patel frantically worked the manual overrides. "Still locked out," she gasped. "They're inside our systems." Ethan reached for the emergency power switch, but before he could activate it, the air around them warped, a ripple in space itself. And then they appeared. Three figures materialized in the corridor, stepping through what looked like a fracture in reality itself, the same silver-armored entities that had spoken to them outside. But these were different, taller, more menacing. Their bodies shifting, morphing as if reality struggled to define their true form. Their weapons crackled with energy, coiling like living lightning. Reynolds didn't hesitate. He grabbed the emergency sidearm from his belt and fired. The bullet never landed. It stopped mid-air, frozen inches from the nearest entity. Then, with a flick of its wrist, the bullet reversed direction, slamming back into Reynolds' shoulder. He collapsed with a grunt of pain. Ethan grabbed him, eyes wide. They're toying with us. One of the entities tilted its head, regarding them with an unreadable expression, and then the voice returned, inside their minds. This vessel will not leave. The corridor dimmed, shadows twisting unnaturally. Patel gasped, clutching her head. They were inside her mind. Ethan fought against the pressure, his vision blurring. His own thoughts weren't his anymore. He saw glimpses of destruction, the fleet descending upon Earth, entire cities erased in seconds. Then, a spark. Somewhere, deep in the ship's core, a backup system came online. A surge of power flickered through Odyssey 1. And Ethan knew. This was their only chance. He turned to Patel, whispering through gritted teeth. Override the engines, now, she hesitated. That could kill us. Ethan's hands balled into fists. Better us than Earth. Patel's hands shook as she accessed the emergency override panel. The ship's systems were barely responding, flickering under the alien influence. The invaders were inside everything. Odyssey 1, their minds, their future. Ethan tightened his grip on Reynolds, who groaned, blood seeping from his wounded shoulder. Patel, he urged, voice tense. Do it. The silver-armored figures stood motionless, watching, studying. They didn't stop her. Why? Then one of them took a slow step forward. Its voice slithered into their heads. You wish to run. A low hum resonated through the ship. The walls darkened, like shadows swallowing the light. Space itself seemed to fold inward. Patel's fingers danced across the console. Come on, she muttered. The alien raised its hand. Ethan saw the air twist, a ripple forming just inches from Patel's chest. A kill strike. No time. Ethan lunged. The impact sent them both sprawling as the air where Patel had stood imploded, leaving a void of crushing nothingness. If he had reacted a second later, she would have ceased to exist. Patel gasped, scrambling back toward the console. I have it. The ship rumbled as manual ignition bypassed the alien lockout. Engines roared to life. The lead alien tilted its head again, curious, amused. Run, then. The ship lurched violently, its thrusters firing at full burn. A shriek of twisting metal echoed as Odyssey 1 ripped away from the moon's surface, breaking free from the silent grip of the alien structure. Ethan barely had time to register what had just happened before Patel's panicked voice rang out. They're not stopping us. Ethan turned. The silver figures remained motionless, watching them escape, and then they vanished, not defeated, not destroyed, letting them go. And that terrified Ethan more than anything. The silence inside Odyssey 1 was suffocating. The engines roared as the ship accelerated away from the moon, but Ethan's mind was stuck on one thing. They let us go. Reynolds groaned, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Patel scrambled to stabilize him, but her hands were shaking. They were all shaking. Ethan staggered to the command console, forcing his thoughts into action. Houston, do you copy? His voice cracked through the static. Odyssey 1 has engaged emergency departure. A deep pulse reverberated through the ship. Not from the engines. Something else. Ethan's eyes snapped to the external cameras. His stomach dropped. The moon was changing. Where the alien monolith had stood, a rift had begun to open. The lunar surface split apart, a dark void expanding beneath the dust, as if the very moon was hollow, hiding something unimaginable. Patel's voice was barely a whisper. That's impossible. Reynolds coughed, pain in his voice. I don't think it's a base. He winced, his breathing uneven. I think the moon was never just a moon. The realization sent chills through Ethan's spine. The aliens weren't stopping them because they had already won. And then the sensors screamed. A massive object emerged from the lunar rift. It wasn't a ship, it was a titanic structure, black as the void, with veins of pulsating energy running across its surface. It was ancient, alive, waking up. Odyssey 1's alarms blared. Patel's hands flew over the controls. We have incoming gravitational distortion. It's pulling us back. Ethan gritted his teeth. Full burn. We have to break free. The engines roared at maximum thrust, but it felt like they were fighting against a black hole. The ship groaned, metal bending under the force. Then, a transmission. Not from Houston. From the structure, one word, a whisper cutting through the noise, filling every crew member's mind with a single, terrifying message. Ethan's heart pounded as the single word echoed through his mind. Awakening. Patel's hands trembled over the controls. The gravitational pull is increasing. We're not breaking free. Reynolds, still clutching his shoulder, forced himself upright. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. We need more thrust. Dump the auxiliary fuel into the main boosters. That could blow us apart, Patel snapped. Ethan didn't hesitate. Do it. Patel cursed under her breath, but complied. The ship shuddered violently as she rerouted the fuel reserves. Engines screamed, pushing Odyssey 1 past its limit. Outside, the colossal structure from beneath the moon's surface continued to rise. It was unfathomably large, stretching into the darkness of space. Vast rings of pulsating energy surrounded its core, shifting and aligning as if responding to an ancient command. Then, light. From within the structure, a blinding blue arc of energy began to form. It wasn't just waking up, it was powering up. Ethan's breath caught. They're not just letting us go. His voice was barely a whisper. They wanted us to see this. The realization struck all at once. The aliens weren't stopping them because Odyssey 1 was no longer the target. Earth was. The energy arc expanded, crackling with immeasurable power. A weapon. A planet killer. Patel's voice was frantic. We have to warn Houston. We have to. The transmission cut through again. But this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a command. Witness. The energy pulse detonated outward, not towards them, but towards the void of space, an impossible display of power. The sheer force sent shockwaves rippling through the cosmos, distorting reality itself. Odyssey 1 lurched forward, thrown by the blast. The gravitational pull shattered. Patel screamed, "We're free!" Ethan didn't feel relieved, because deep down he knew this was only the beginning. The silence after the blast was unnatural, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Ethan's knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of the console. The colossal structure loomed behind them, its rings of energy still humming with an eerie pulse. It hadn't fired at Earth yet, but the message was clear. Reynolds gritted his teeth, pain visible in his face. They just flexed their power. That was a warning shot. Patel's fingers flew across the controls. I'm patching through to Houston. We need to. A new alarm blared through the ship. Ethan's stomach dropped. Incoming vessels. Hundreds. The sensor screen exploded with red markers. Unidentified ships emerging from the void around the moon's dark side. They were waiting for us, Patel whispered, her voice hollow. Ethan swallowed hard. Houston, this is Odyssey 1. The invasion has already begun. Static. Odyssey 1, we copy. We see them. Relief flickered in Ethan's chest until he saw the Earth feed. Bright streaks of light were descending through the atmosphere. Not meteors. Not satellites. Landfall. Reynolds stared in horror. They're already there. Patel gasped as new signals flooded the system. Oh my God. Ethan turned to the display. More ships. Not alien. Human. Earth's defenses were responding. And the battle for humanity had just begun. The first explosions lit up Earth's surface. Bright flashes, some defensive, some devastating. War had begun. Odyssey 1 rocketed away from the moon's gravitational pull, its engines burning at maximum thrust. But Ethan's eyes were locked onto the view below. Fires raged in the atmosphere. Humanity was fighting back. Reynolds, breathing heavily, leaned against the console. We need to land. We need to join the fight. Patel's hands were shaking. We barely made it out alive. How do we fight this? Ethan gritted his teeth. We tell the world what we saw. We warn them. The massive alien structure behind them pulsed again, its rings shifting, preparing. It wasn't done. A deep transmission cut into their minds once more. This is the first wave. Ethan's blood ran cold. Houston's voice crackled through the comms. Odyssey 1, get back to Earth. We need you here. Patel fired the thrusters. The ship angled toward home. Below them, Earth burned, and humanity's last stand had only just begun. End of part 1. Do you want to know what happens next? This war has only just begun. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Part 2 is coming soon. Turn on notifications to stay updated.